When I was first starting to learn how to shoot film, I not only undervalued the importance of nailing your exposure, but also, thankfully, was carried heavily by my built-in light meter at the time. Once I switched to medium format shortly after, I quickly realized how important getting an accurate exposure reading was and started looking into light meters. Much to my surprise, after spending like $400 on a Mamiya 645, I was, shocked that light meters would cost over $100, especially for what was regarded as a good one. At that point, I remembered seeing some of my friends using a light meter on their phone, to which I then downloaded a handful of them, and none of them I really liked. Some had bad user interfaces, and some didn't have an actual spot meter, which I really value personally. While the meters themselves weren't necessarily bad, it was the whole user experience that went into it that I just didn't like. Well, shortly after that, a good friend of mine showed me the Light Meter app, which don't know how I missed, but I've been using since and honestly have been really enjoying it. At this point, I do have a super reliable Sekonic meter that I use for the majority of my work, but there's many times when I'm caught without it, and in a pinch still use this app with no issues at all. Even for some more grandiose landscape stuff that I've shot in the past couple summers, I remember for some of it, my light meter battery actually ran out while I was out camping, so I had to use the light meter app on my phone, and all the photos turned out great. It's super straightforward with a simple interface. On the bottom, it has shutter speed, aperture, and ISO. You're able to adjust your settings, then lock them up and meter in basically an aperture priority or shutter priority mode. It even shows you the color temperature, which is pretty cool. You can easily swap cameras, add a mask to check composition, save and download an image, and even pause on a composition to really dial in the settings. There's a whole slew of different settings and thresholds you can set up to really customize the experience. Personally, I've just left mine stock and have had great results. So without further ado, let's get out in the field and actually test out the app, as I think I can only talk about it so much. Before, I should just show you, to me, the somewhat marginal difference that you can get when using this compared to the Sekonic. Obviously, the Sekonic is much better in every situation, backlit especially, or any crazy dynamic scenes. The Sekonic is going to read it more accurately, but for a free app, this is great. Okay, let's get to it. Come on. So I head up to Rocky Mountain National Park to test the app in comparison to my Sekonic and other light meters in general. What I especially love most about this app is being able to use the spot meter to check the highlights and the shadows to find a healthy balance between them, and just how fast the app reacts to everything is chef's kiss. So my thought process and what I've been doing for all these is metering with the phone app first, and then metering with the Sekonic, and then comparing to see how different they are, I guess, between them. Like I said before, I've used the light meter quite extensively when I haven't had the Sekonic with me. So I'm pretty confident that all of these, which I'm sure as you've seen so far, have looked really comparable, especially when we're comparing, a free app to a $300 Sekonic light meter. I think a lot of people, when they're shooting film, they buy like a $100 film camera, and then the cost of film itself is quite a big barrier to entry to it itself. So paying that much for a light meter, I can see being kind of gut-wrenching once you find out. So yeah, let's keep shooting and see how this does. So from here, I actually headed back to the car as it was starting to get pretty violently cold and windy. That being said, I compiled some photos from some trips this summer where I know that I did not bring the Sekonic and instead was limited to the iPhone app, and the photos, I think, turned out great. Alright, so as you can tell, the photos weren't edited for exposure or anything like that, and honestly, like I've said before, I'm really impressed with the iPhone app. Yes, the Sekonic is obviously going to give you a more accurate reading, especially with more complicated scenes, and especially with backlit. The phone app is obviously also going to struggle with backlit situations or any really bright situations where the sun is coming directly into the lens, but for free $99, it's hard to beat. Yes, I would definitely encourage getting a dedicated light meter, as you'll learn how to meter, especially more difficult scenes, faster and more accurately. But if you can't afford one, or if you're just starting out, this is a great means of getting accurate exposures. At this point, there's tons of hot shoe mounted light meters, which are fairly cheap from a variety of different companies that I've tested and I've had good results with. So those would be something to look into as well. But if we're being honest, especially with some tweaks to the photos, you'd never be able to tell the difference between the Sekonic metered ones and the light metered ones. A testament to be editing your photos. I know there are some other apps out there that people are definitely going to recommend, and if you do have a recommendation, let me know. But from what I've looked recently and through the App Store and stuff, most of them you have to pay for at this point, and they have, to me, far inferior interfaces, and they don't have a spot meter, and I don't know, it just seems like every app has some significant con to it, and to me personally, the light meter app that I just showed has been great, and there's not really one blatant issue like a lot of the other ones that I can think of. It's got a clean interface, it's got the spot meter, it's got adjustable settings, it's got an aperture priority mode, it's been accurate. What more can you ask for? It's free. Come on. For me, one of the biggest things is having that spot meter. I think for my workflow, I like being able to see where the highlights and shadows differ and then kind of come up with a middle ground to be metering for to enable me to get the most dynamic shot that I possibly can. Alright, I think that's going to do it for this one. I wanted to show you guys what I use in a pinch for light metering and kind of my process when using it, as well as what I think is the best free light meter on the market. Otherwise, if you guys have any suggestions for apps or any quarrel with my train of thought with this, definitely let me know down in the comments below, as you guys always bring some interesting discourse to the videos. Otherwise, that'll wrap it up for this one, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Till the next one, stay safe, stay shooting. Adios.